Joined by Tommy Wheeldon Jr. ahead of the playoffs. Tommy, it's a different time of year, no doubt about it. What have you learned during your coaching experience about, I suppose, knockout cup-style football compared to league?
It's exciting. Every game matters, but then it's a different context than the long haul of, say, a 28-game season. But it takes, we used the term this year of playing to the whistle.
Right.
And the reason being is that's what it took, and that's the pause that made the difference between us advancing, potentially, or being knocked out. And it took a long off season, and we've incorporated that into every single game. Just keep playing to the whistle, because they're the moments that matter when it comes down to playoff football.
We will move forward, I promise. But personally, how long did that take for you to get over, or have you not got over it yet? Is that something you lose sleep over?
Well, it was funny because you always think it's your first win, and we didn't win in the first 3 games. So
Right.
It took until we beat Pacific 2-0 at home, and Jose Escalante got one on the byline and cut it back early on the game, and I'm almost like, you feel it wash over you, like, okay, now we're moving forward.
Okay.
And it always is, the first win of the season helps you push on to the new season now, and then the rest just is history.
And you look back at your history in the regular season, absolutely fantastic. In the playoffs, it's been a little bit different, but it's hard, right? So is there anything you do differently when it comes to managing those times, or is it more important not to make it any different?
Not to make it any different. I'll tell you why, because I read a great article about Jurgen Klopp. Before they won the Champions League in 2019, he'd lost 6 finals, but he's always there. So you get that close. If you reinvent the wheel and try and change something too much, you lose the secret sauce that gets you. What you've got to have is you've got to have the talent available to you that can have a bit of magic, force a mistake, clever set play, and defend with your lives. And I think if you can have those ingredients through the course of the season, there's a high likelihood it can come out when it matters.
And how excited are you about 2-legged semi-finals?
Really good.
Yeah.
Really good. And we experienced it in 2019, and it was an interesting one. Obviously, when we lost Joel Waterman in the first leg and we're down to 10 men, we had to manage there. But even leaving Tim Hortons Field with 1-0, you think it was a close game, and then you have the second leg, and we're so close in that one. We still feel like we could have had a penalty in the final, but again, you play to the whistle, and it was a close game on a tough circumstance. But it's a fine line between winning and losing, isn't it? Especially at that level.
It certainly is. You mentioned 2019. Here we are in 2022. You're at it again. What we've come to expect is you're always there, Cavalry. You're always ready to contend in this. How different is your group this year, and how battle-hardened are you, do you think, for this journey?
Definitely. I mean, the disappointment of last year stayed with a few of the existing players, and some of them can wash it off. Then you bring in new blood, so you can't always compare to what you've done before. It's not fair on the ones you bring in now. And we've even had mid-season changes, whether it be because of the injuries we had or the sales of Victor and Arabim. So we've tried to make sure we try and keep a focus of what our DNA is, no matter who the opposition is, how we can work on our strengths, how we can nullify their strengths and expose their weaknesses. And then, it's just about trying to keep the chemistry about the club above all else and anybody else. And I think if we impart that in our daily behaviours, it's helped us with more games than not.
Fascinating. You mentioned it, Arabin Pepple, obviously heading over to England, Victor Latori to Scotland. Fantastic for the Canadian Premier League, fantastic for them. And I know you thinking about them would think that, but you're also a gaffer whose mandate is to get results.
Absolutely.
When you lose 2 class players like that, starting players like that, how do you go about it? And also, how do you about sending the message to your group that's saying, we're still going to win here without them?
Yeah, I think that's where you put your culture is challenged, because we always talk about, adapt and overcome to whatever the problems are. We always talk about, being a club that has winning behaviours. And to me, winning is how many bums in seats you have consistently to your home games.
Yep.
How many logos do you see in around the city of Calgary? How many times do you, win during the regular season? And I think if you have those winning behaviours consistently, for us, selling a player over to the English Championship, selling a player over to the Scottish Premiership, that's of our winning values. And then when I think of what our ownership group wanted, and when I spoke to Linda and Ian about bringing this, and part of the values were creating opportunities for Canadians, it fits the long-term vision. So sometimes the timing doesn't always work for us as head coaches, but you're doing what's right for the game, and I think that's the most important thing.
Fascinating stuff. A couple more minutes with you. You've got a really experienced group, I think. Obviously, you've got a young team and it's a young league, but how much do you rely on those experienced heads who played in finals in moments like this?
Massively, and you see, like, you know, obviously when Marco's battled his health at the start of the season, we missed him. When he returned, when Mason Trafford returned, you know, even Elliot Simmons is young. Like, they give us that solidarity to allow the rest of our team to play. You know, I always believe that you need experience through the spine. You know, and you know, Joe Mason up front has also helped the likes of Arabin Peppel and Maya Bevan, and you know, when he wasn't playing, he was supporting them. And it's things that as coaches, and you know, when I think of Nick Ledgerwood and I think of Leon Hapgood and Jordan Santiago, who's been with me since day one, we can do so much as a coaching staff in trying to guide the players. But when you go to war with different players, there's something that the guys in the locker room can share deeper than any of us coaches. So I think it's always important, if we're still, you know, invested in growing young Canadians, you need to have a little bit of salt and pepper around to help them.
I love that. When you get dressed ahead of the playoff game this weekend and you get ready to go out there, what's it like that morning? You love this stuff, no? Love
it. This is the time of year, like through the season, there's moments where it can be a bit of a grind. But in the running, that's the exciting thing. Every day, you know, it's funny because my mum was going to come over through October. She had you know, things cancelled through COVID. I love my mum to bits. And I said, Mum, not over the COVID. I said the same to my dad as well.
Right.
And during these times, I'm not much company. My wife, bless her, you know, and my kids, they just know what it's all about. For me, it's 24/7, right? It's about, you know, looking at our players, what we're doing the next day, looking at our upcoming opponent, what do we need from that game, what happens if I need a plan B. So you're just consumed with all this, and you've got to filter it down. So when you impart it to your coaching staff and your players, it's got to be full of clarity. And I think that's, you know, I know my time is precious during this time, but I love it.
I love that. Last one for you. Have you allowed yourself to think what it would be like to lift it, the Shield?
Every year. every year.
What's that like? What would it mean? What would it mean to you?
Do you know what? I think it would be emotional, because it's one where, like I said, we've been so close. And I think when you're so close and it is within touching distance, you know, and we had the best regular season in 2019. You know, I thought we got unlucky in 2020 and then 2021, the way that worked out. But we've not stopped, and I think that's a true testament of our character to keep on going, because you know, it's never how you start the race, it's always how you finish it, and that's what will be remembered. So I think it would be an emotional one, but we're close.
You're close. Well, we'll see you there maybe. Good luck, mate. Enjoy the playoffs. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.